Welcome everyone to round 4 of the Evening Dash. So unfortunately, my great companion in this series, Sinclair, could not make it for tonight. So you'll be having to listen to my voice for the entire evening. So sorry about the delays, but I can guarantee you tonight is going to be a very special night. We are at the fabled Sebring track, and many of us know Sebring is a very awesome track. But yeah, so we currently in the qualifying session, and currently on pole, provisional pole for the hypercar class is this man, Jihan Kleinans, and he is not too far off, or not too far away from Wath Musa, who is in second. And yeah, these two been established title contenders. And I think it's going to be a complete riot for the hypercar class. So let's just quickly go down the order. So Jihan Kleinans in provisional pole, Wath Musa trailing very closely behind in second, Jacques in third, followed by now Bouillon in fourth, and Lee Bouillon in fifth. Then, when we go to the LMP2 class, we have provisional pole, as expected so far, Chris Stoltz, who is being followed by Henko van den Berg, and then third place, Paul Venter, followed by his teammate Darren Miller in fourth for LNR, and a new competitor enters the championship. Another LNR staple, Jude Neville, in fifth in his first outing for the championship. And he is also followed by another LNR ally, Niall Greening, who is in sixth. And then trailing him is Alan Patterson in seventh. And in eighth, Rob van der Heerwe. And then in ninth, Danny Steenkamp, and then 10th, Sean Laredo, which rounds up the LMP2 class. Okay, so Vietia Botha, provisional pole in front of David van Wyk, who both of them are sitting in the pits at the current moment, with 1 minute and 13 seconds to go, followed by Geldenace, who's also a new entry to the championship. So let's see how his first outing goes. And he is followed by Jody Siereman in fourth, who is then followed by Flip van Zyl in fifth, and then Ulrich de Jager in sixth, and he is being trailed by Richard van der Heerwe. Then we have Willie Legrange, I hope I pronounced that correctly, in P9, and Blichnote, who has not set a single lap time yet. He has been a very dominant force in the GT3 class. So that has been very, very interesting so far. I don't think he'll have enough time to get out. So that's his qualifying done. And Jason Farmer, who also joins him at the back with a late entry. So going back to the hypercar class, we have Jihan Kleinans in provisional pole over by 8/10 from Wath Musa, and right behind Wath Musa is Jacques. And that's Wath coming into the pits, so his qualifying is done. It's over. And it's the same for the Bouillons, and it's the same for Jacques. So technically speaking, Jihan Kleinans does not need to go out for another lap. He has secured pole. But in the LMP2 class, it's very much on the table still. As we see Chris Stoltz entering that third sector, that fabled third sector, very tight and twisty, but also just a series of corners with very little grip. Okay, so catching up with the chat. Hello everybody to whoever's watching. Welcome to the stream. If you guys need to be clued in, unfortunately, Sinclair, my loyal co-commentator, is not able to join this round. But yeah, so it's just unfortunately going to be just me. So Blichnotes is saying having some technical difficulties. So starting from the back, that is huge for the championship. But however, he still has 2 drop rounds. So if he can maybe salvage as much as he can, this can be a very good round for him. As we see Chris Stoltz coming to the main straight in provisional pole. And that will seem to be it, unless Sean Laredo, who's still out on track, and I stand corrected, he just finished the lap. So, that is Chris Stoltz in pole for the LMP2 class. And let us go to GT3s, where we see Vapour Evening for the first time in the series manage a pole position. That is incredible stuff from him. And he is followed by Van Wyk, who is trying to carry the steam out from last time. So we'll have to see how that goes. Also, something else to maybe mention is Gabriel dos Santos, who's also had his best qualifying. Yeah, he's had his best qualifying for the season so far, as we now wait for people to join the grid. And this is going to be a very interesting race. As we know, Sebring is an incredibly bumpy circuit. And yeah, it's just going to come down to who can keep it nice and clean. I mean, we keep saying this week in, week out, but it very much, we've just been seeing all of this racing. It's always beneficial to make sure that you can survive. Whatever happens, you know, like, you can maybe not be on the pace, but if at least you make it to the checkered flag, that is all that's important. As we see everybody line up on the grid, and let's just see what is the starting orders. Okay, so for hypercar class in row 1. Okay, wait, give me a second. All of this is new. We have Johan Kleinans in first, and Moaz Musa locking out the front row in second place. I don't know if it auto-scrolls. I think it should auto-scroll. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to want to. I apologize for that. Yeah, technical difficulties. Okay, but we'll just go like this. Okay, Johan Kleinans first, Moaz Musa second, Jacques in third, now Bouillon in fourth, and Lee Bouillon in fifth. That rounds out the hypercar class. Chris Stoltz in... just apologize for a second. Chris Stoltz once again in pole over Henko van den Berg in second, Paul Venter third, Darren Miller fourth, Jude Neville fifth, Neil Greening sixth, Alan Patterson seventh, Sean Laredo eighth, Rob van der Heerwe ninth, Danny Steenkamp 10th, Ari Venter 11th. That rounds out the LMP2s. For GT3s, Vapour Evening in first, David van Wyk in second, Jody Siereman in third, JD Geldenays in fourth, Flip van Zyl in fifth, Gabriel dos Santos sixth, Albrecht de Jager in seventh, Richard van Heerde in eighth, Willie in ninth, 10th, Johan Blichnoot, and Jason Farmer rounds out the GT3 class. So sorry about the apologies for the interruption. There was a sort of glitch in the system. So it is Kleinans in first over Moaz Musa and Jacques. Very much clean so far from the start of the race for the hypercar class. Chris Stoltz in first, leading from Henko van den Berg, and Paul Venter in third. Once again, very clean start for everyone in the LMP2 class, but something has happened to Sean Laredo, who's all the way at the back, and something has happened to Alan Peterson. Alan Peterson has sustained damage. That might be his race over from the first lap, not even exiting the first sector. That is more than likely his race over. While we see higher up in the grid, everyone's kind of just slotting in. The chaos has not really been that... How can I say? The chaos has not really existed here. Everyone's just kind of playing it nice and safe because they know it's a long race and it's Sebring. It's a very, very difficult circuit, and you need to make sure that you make it to the end, that you don't outbreak yourself, that you don't hit a bump wrong. So everyone is just trying to play nice. As we see in the background, Darren Miller versus his teammate Jude Neville. They're not close enough. But we see at the back, that is Rob van der Heever, who is fighting against Ari Venter. Quite close battles all round here. And we already have someone in the pits. It is the GT3 of Willie. And yeah, this is exactly what I was worried about. And there's someone in the background. I just saw. Who is that? I don't know who that is. But someone has smacked into the barrier. And just as I was... Oh! That is Jacques. Jacques is in the wall. That might be his race over. His rear wing has come off. That is incredibly unfortunate. That is tragedy for him after having such a good start, keeping up with the leaders, but it just was not good enough. As we see Paul Venter closing on the back of P2 here, as the leaders 1, 2, and 3 in the LMP2 class stay they stay so close to each other as if a rope is attached to each end of the car, and Paul is just being dragged along. But now this is the problem with Sebring as well, as Paul runs wide, is that following is an incredibly difficult task, and there's no proper setup for a high braking zone. So Paul is going to have a huge monumental task ahead of him, as we see Jude Neville going after Darren Miller, getting incredibly close. These two have been close since lap 1, and oh my days, it is going to be a race tonight, as we see Jude Neville attack those curbs, trying to keep up with Darren Miller, but Darren Miller manages to get a good exit, just good enough to make sure that he stays ahead on the back straight. Okay, so let's see. Is there any other battles on the grid? As we see Ari Venter going against Greening. This is Project Vapour versus LNR. Can Ari Venter make it into that last corner? As we see a battle in the background between first, second, and third for GT3. Vapour Evening lost out big time. I don't know what happened there, but they are going 3 wide into the last corner. There is no space, and Serbing comes barreling through, taking the position that Buerta got greedy to pounce on, and that is him back into the lead. But Buerta is not going to let that slide so easily, tailing in his draft, keeping up with him, as Van Veek was maybe just a little bit caught out by that. He did not expect people wanting to go 3 wide in such a dangerous corner. One misstep with the bump and one misstep with throttle application, and you will lose the rear. So that was a gamble and a half by Vapour Evening, with Serbing still coming out on top in the end, but Buerta still making up a position. So this is a battle definitely to watch, while we see in the background the GT3 action continues with Richard van der Heever, and we see Johan Blicknoot. He's already 4th. That's an incredible fleet from him, and he is going to really charge. He's going to make a charge to win this race. And speaking of winning this race, Vapour Evening showing his nose down the inside, but Serbing is unaffected. He's unfazed, and we have confirmation that Gabriel dos Santos has DNF'd from the race. So I think that's him and Jacques who DNF from the race. So that's 2 retirements. And we see Alan Patterson fixing his car, and he's going back out there. Instead of quitting, he made it back onto the track, and that is just wonderful to see. That is something that we very much cherish in this league. So, for an update, in the hypercar class, Kleinans is increasing his lead, making sure that he has a good enough buffer until the pit stops come ahead. But as you can see, there's just a puff of smoke from the lockup on his end. And Marth is 2.6 seconds away, so he has not been able to respond to the pace so far, with now Bullion 2.67 seconds behind. So quite similar deltas between all of the competitors in the hypercar class. And Lee Bullion still very much there and in the mix. So we'll see how this battle unfolds later on. But Chris Stoltz managing to have a decent-ish lead, but Henko is not too far behind. And that is good. That is very much what he wants, and to keep up with Chris is definitely the end goal of the race. He is definitely the man to beat, not just for this race, but for this entire championship. Chris Stoltz has shown masterful control over the LMP2 and its quirks and its downforce and its strength under the brakes, and is very much shown that he is the man to beat. As we see Ari Fenter closing down the gap on Rob. He has been making a very good climb as well at the moment, and something had happened to Jude Neville, because now he is in 11th and he just overtook his teammate Greening in the LNR camp. So something must have happened, but he's clearly back on the charge as we see Ari Fenter 2/10 away from Hever. And is he going to send it down on the inside in the last corner? He thinks better, he hangs back, he knows that Sebring can bite, it can snap at you at any second, and he'd rather take the safer way out. But that does not mean that he's going to let off of his relentless pursuit to get P5. So, going into the LMGT3 class, we have Bertha, who leads from an incredible train. Look at this. There is a four-way battle at the moment for the lead, as Van Wyk is fighting off Johan Blicknoot, and I think that is an LMP2 either coming out of the pits or incredibly slowing down. There might be issues on that LMP2's end, but he stayed out of the way, and this battle can continue, and it's an incredible charge. But judging from what happened in Interlagos, I do not see Van Wyk rolling over so easily for Blicknoot. He's definitely going to give Blicknoot a run for his money, and these two are definitely title contenders at the moment. This is the championship battle to watch. This is what it's all about. It's these two titanic individuals fighting it for glory, and they both want the same thing. They want the top step of the podium. But this race is a bit interesting and a bit different, because now there's a bigger mix for the win. So anyone from the GT3 class can win at the moment, and we'll just have to see how that battle unfolds. But, quick update. Johan Kleinans, oh, sorry, there is a yellow flag on track. I don't know who that was. I can't find anyone who falls under that yellow flag. But, quick update. Johan Kleinans is still in the lead by 2.5, so the gap has stabilized a little bit. So Moath has some more pace in the tank, but will it be enough pace that he can catch up to Kleinans when it matters most? So, we are in the 35-minute mark, and there is a long way to go. And we don't know how the tires are going to last here. This is a particularly unforgiving track on the car, but it might just be forgiving enough for this game and for the tire wear. We are currently unfamiliar with the tire wear, with the 2x multiplier, and how that comes into effect, but we'll definitely see later on. So, it seems like most of the grid has calmed down, except for the constant battling within the GT3 class. There is a massive battle for the lead, and Bertha is just managing, trying to build that gap, trying to make sure that he doesn't overpush, because he's still in the lead. So, Bertha leads Jody Seerman, who is followed by David van Wyk, who is then followed by Johan Blicknoot in a comeback drive of note. He has so much time to work through the grid if he's already done such a monumental comeback drive so far. In the background, oh, there was a big accident. Something happened between Jason Farmer and Richard van Heerde, and oh, we couldn't catch that on camera. But oh, another collision. They take each other out. Farmer manages to stay on track, but this has allowed Moath to close in on him, and he is right on his bumper. He manages to get the luckiest end of the stick in that situation, and that causes Moath to have 5/10 of difference between him and Kleinans. So this fight is very much back on. And that played beautifully into Moath's hands. But is Richard out of the race? That might be a DNF on his end. There is a lot of damage on the rear of that car. That was a very nasty shunt. And I don't know what happened. The stewards will have to take a look at that and see if there was foul play or if it was just a racing incident. But Jason Farmer came off the best out of the two in that scenario, and at the same time influenced the fight for the lead. So that is incredible scenes here as we see Ari Fenter also spin out as he was gaining on Rob and Danny Steenkamp. He gets back onto the track to try see if he can claw back any positions and just fight his way back up. So this is the part of Sebring where people will start to feel the sting of this old American airstrip or this airport that has been converted into a racetrack, and because of its just olden style and its olden sort of aesthetic and age, it is just a track that is completely unforgiving and requires each of the drivers to be on their toes at all times. So even with the setback, Kleinans has managed to increase the gap, but there is a huge traffic jam here as he tries to thread the needle down the inside of Sean Laredo and the lead of the GT3 class, Vapour Evening. He somehow makes it stick. Moaz trying to navigate through as well. Will he pull something similar? No, he won't. He will get the better end of the stick once again. So his traffic management has been helping him stay close to Kleinans. But Kleinans has also known when to pounce and has pulled off some audacious moves that have somehow stuck. An incredible driving from the pair at the moment as these two gladiators try and fight for the top step of the podium, for the overall win. And not just in class, but for the whole. Apologies for the technical difficulties yet again. So yeah, we've been having issues as this is a kind of new territory in terms of setting up this game and setting up how the streaming works in relation to the game. So apologies for that, but we are back in. And Moaz has lost quite a bit of time to Kleinans in the time of being down from the air. So, Jan Kleinans first, Moaz Musa second, Niall Bullion third, and Lee Bullion fourth. That rounds out the hypercar class. In first, in the LMP2 class, Chris Stoltz once again showing his dominance, but not by so much. Henko has managed to at least have a 6-second gap. So we'll see if pits play any form of an outcome, influence any form of an outcome in this tight battle. So Paul, P3, Danny Steenkamp, P4, Rob, P5, Neil Greening, P6, Darren Miller, who is fighting with his teammate Jude Neville, who runs into him. But Jude Neville, from the looks of it, is lapped. So that could have ended incredibly nasty for the LNR teammates. So just judging from that incident, it seemed like they came off scot-free. So Ari Fenter, who is leading the hypercars through in P8, Jude Neville, P9, Sean Laredo, P10, and Alan Patterson in P11 after that first lap shunt that really affected his race. Vapour Evening has established a very comfortable gap from the rest of the battling by 2.2 seconds, but the man behind him is Blicknote, and as we've seen in every single race of the season, this man is relentless. He is willing to try the impossible, and he wants that victory. He can smell it. He knows that it's there. He just needs to get close enough. But in the background, Jody Sierman and Van Beek are both fighting for P3, for the bottom step of the podium, and David Van Beek just not being able to get close enough. He struggled a little bit on the corner exit. But P5, Jason Farmer, P6, Ulrich de Jager, and P7, Caldenes. And rounding out the LM GT3 class that is still running, or the people who are still running, Willie. So, just a reminder, who's retired so far? Richard van der Heerde, Flip Van Zyl, Jacques, and Gabriel dos Santos. So, unfortunately, this track has a tendency to bite, and not everyone comes off scot-free, as we've been seeing with some of the incidents, and some of them do sting. So at the current moment, it looks like most of the grid has just settled in a little bit, and now they're just trying to manage the race with 27 minutes to go. So the closest battle on track at the moment is between David van Wyk and Jody Searman. We have been trading blows upon blows, and this has been a very close battle to watch between these two drivers. But up front, Bliknoot has managed to shave off a complete second to Vapour Evening, who now is going to start looking in his rear view mirrors, and he's going to start thinking, I need to start defending from this man. Or if he's thinking about the pits, just let him through and focus on his own race. So very much a lot of strategy calls at play here, and a lot of them, it has to be executed perfectly to maximize the potential of the outcome of the race. So Bliknoot has now made it within the 1 second interval, now just narrowly exiting 1 second before returning back. Oh, just narrowly missing within the 1 second interval between the two. But it's just a matter of time before Bliknoot gets far enough to try and mount an offensive on Vapour Evening. So there doesn't really seem to be anything else going on in the race except for this continuing battle between David van Wyk and Jody Searman. And it's been kind of just stabilizing. Van Wyk has been getting close, but just not enough to essentially mount an offensive. But Searman has a little bit of damage, and I don't really think Van Wyk has from the looks of it. So this might actually affect his tires down the line, but we'll have to see how the pit stops come into effect. We'll have to just wait as we see Ari Fenter coming out of the pits. So we might start to see that this is the pit window where everyone just jumps in. But we'll have to see how that pans out as Ari Fenter comes out behind Alan Patterson. And something has happened. There has been a yellow flag somewhere in the race. And I think it's just gone now. So someone might have spun out. But there we go. Pit window is opening now. Danny Steenkamp has come into the pits for the LMP2 class. So has Rob, as we see him serving his pit stop. And we are seeing Darren Miller come into the pits as well. For some reason the cameras could not follow him, but yes, Rob is doing either a tire change, well, he has to fill up. So I've been hearing a lot from the drivers that a lot of them gamble on not changing tires because it gives them such a monstrous lead over the rest of the grid that it essentially just comes down to the final laps and how they place the car in relation to the attacking driver. So I am very curious to see if Rob puts it for tires or not. As we see, or as we hear, Danny Steenkamp also come out from his pit box. So he got jumped by Rob, and these two are coming out. As we see, the leader for the LMP2 class, Chris Stoltz, come into the pits to serve his pit stop. And Henko very much swiftly responds by following into the pit lane. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this this battle of the pit lane. But once again, there's another yellow flag, but we just don't know where. It is very difficult to pinpoint where a lot of these incidents are happening. But Van Wyk, closest he has ever been, 210s. He forces Searman on the outside. Can he do it around the outside? Not really, but his exit might just be good enough to launch an offensive on the inside. Can he do it? He's too far back, but can he send it for a lunge? No, he thinks better of it, and he sticks right behind Searman as he has been for the couple of laps. So up ahead, Bliknoot, 5/10 within the lead. Now, will Vapour Evening fight with his life, or is he going to jump them and head into the pits? Because the GT3 fuel tank should be coming to a near end at the moment. So we'll have to just see how that pans out. But Henko Vandenberg, I think, might have jumped Chris Stoltz. He has jumped Chris Stoltz for the lead. So Henko gets into net P1 while Neil Greening leads overall in the LMP2 class. But look at that gap. It is massive. there must have been a pit change of sorts in terms of strategy. They might be going on differing strategies. I know in the past Chris has favored the no tire strat, but he also has complained about the lack of grip. So he might be trying something new with just how unforgiving the circuit is, or he had a mishap in the pit lane. So we'll have to just keep our eyes on that as we see throughout the grid. Blacknote and Vapour Evening both jump into the pits. Jody Serbing as well in P3. David Van Wyk in P4. All of them jump into the pits to try and keep up with the leaders and to try and be on the same lap. So we have to just see how this strategy pans out for all of them. But yes, this is very much the pit window now, as we see Van Wyk having to be adjusted a little bit. Jody Serbing, who will win the battle off of pit road? That is the question to ask right now, as Vapour Evening is the first to pit out of the four, as he manages to get to his pit box first. We see Ulrich de Jager, Geldenace, and Kleinans and Moath Musa jump into the pits as well. So they are going to be serving their stops. One of those, who is it? One of those GT3s has just finished their pits, if I'm not mistaken, or he's just been, no, sorry, they've been just realigned on the pit road. So Blacknote, I can hear his car spinning off. He just stole the lead from Vapour Evening. What is happening with Vapour? Because now he's so far behind, he must have changed for tires, because his pit was significantly longer than the rest, as we see. And we need to keep an eye on all of the hypercars that have pitted. Can Kleinans jump Moath off of pit road? Or will Moath do that to Kleinans? So, very much the battle in the hypercar class is definitely between Moath Musa and Johan Kleinans, as we wait in eager anticipation to see who will jump off first, who will have the faster pit stop. As we see, Moath Musa jumps him. He jumps him just by a little bit, just by enough, just to get his car ahead. And now all he needs to do is stay ahead, because Kleinans has blistering pace. Look at how close they are. Oh, I cannot believe how close they are. That was insane. Moath jumped him with a beautiful pit stop, and Kleinans is left to pick up the pieces, and he is going to have another go at Moath as they head into traffic. Oh, the traffic is acting sporadically as Moath is trying to make his way through. Can they make it through safely with Serbing? Oh, they make it right past Serbing in the GT3. And that was spectacular. What an insane battle so far that has been flipped on its head. As we see now Bullion leaving the pits. But Lee Bullion has jumped him. If I'm not mistaken, he has jumped him in the pits. So, Henko van den Berg is still leading the LMP2 class. And by quite a comfortable margin. By 2.3 seconds. So, this was unexpected. He had such a good pit stop. And he just is making the strategy work. But if he had to do something to make the strategy work, he might suffer in the end compared to Chris, who might be on a more favorable strategy come the end of the race. So, something has happened with Paul Fenter. He was running net P3 in the early stages of the race, and now he is down to P6 in front of his teammate Jude Neville. And looking at the GT3 class, Blacknote has completely gapped the field and went from a astonishing last to first challenge, while we see Van Wyk in the background trying to chase him down. Not too far off, but not close at all either. Jason Farmer, who's been having a very eventful and chaotic race, finds himself in third. But the biggest shock of all is Vapour Evening. I don't understand what went wrong. He had the race in the bag. He had, well, at least up until the pit stops. So something must have happened with the strategy. But as we see, Moath still leading and making it work for him, as Kleinans is trying to weave through the traffic, but is getting the unluckier end of the stick. So Moath is making good use of the position he's in, as we saw him in the pit lane jump Kleinans by the finest of margins, and he knows, look at this, it is a 4/10 gap as they are trying to weave through traffic, and they find themselves trying to make it past an LMP2 of Alan Patterson, and he narrowly makes it through. Oh, it's a tight squeeze for Kleinans in the background, which allows Moath Musa to make it through and increase that advantage. So these two are going to have a titanic battle as we hit the 17-minute mark of this incredible race so far. I am losing my breath. It has been an incredibly exciting race so far. And as we see in the LMP2 class, Chris Stoltz is managing to close the gap to Henko. Will Henko fight with all of his might, or will he not fight it too hard just to ensure that he can make a second place? I am thinking the first. He is going to fight so hard for that win in the LMP2 class as Chris Stoltz is sniffing his rear bumper. Henko in the inside trying to defend. He blocks the apex, block, defend, and then manages to have somewhat of a breathing space between him and Chris Stoltz, which allows him to live another day, as we see Bullion in the background trying to lap this traffic, which is going to hurt Chris Stoltz's chances if Niall decides to go down the inside now, which he doesn't. But there was a puff of smoke from Chris Stoltz as he tries to close that gap to Henko, who Henko is trying to fight with all of his might for that top step of the podium. As we see now Bullion biding his time. He understands that this is a battle for the lead and he doesn't want to get too involved. But look at this nose to tail stuff. You don't see this anywhere else, as Henko decides maybe just to fool him a little bit and try make his lines a little bit tight so that he thinks that he's going down the inside, but ends up just following the racing line. As we see now Bullion he gets close, but he doesn't try anything drastic to not ruin these two's chances at a wonderful fight. But you can see Chris Stoltz in these twisty bits is very fast in comparison to Henko, and he is just staying within the slipstream. Will this be an opportunity? Will Niall Bullion save Henko? Someone comes out of the pits. It is Drew Neville. This might ruin Chris's chances, but Chris goes down the inside, side by side, in one of the hardest corners of the track. Henko trying to stick around the outside. Beautifully does it. And now it's a drag race to T1 while Chris Stoltz tries to squeeze Henko, but he doesn't have enough oomph in the tank. But Henko down the inside again, trying to defend from Chris Stoltz. Will Chris Stoltz have a better exit? Yes, he does. But can he make it down the inside? He throws it down the inside, trying to outbreak him, but he can't. Once again, Henko defending from Chris Stoltz, trying so desperately hard to get his first win of the season and to get a new winner in the LMP2 category. Can it be Henko this time around as he goes down the straight, down the inside? He knows Chris is going to try every single opportunity before going back onto the racing line and still managing to stay ahead. This is incredible scenes right here, ladies and gentlemen. Incredible stuff from Chris Stoltz and Henko. As Henko, ooh, that is a very late break from Chris Stoltz. But Henko, once again, nerves of steel, doesn't let him through. As we see a back marker of Jude Neville trying to navigate. Oh, Chris Stoltz shows his nose down the inside in a very tight corner, but he thinks better of it and doesn't break too late. He knows that these cars can bite if you are trying too desperately hard to make a move. This is the closest battle on track yet, and these two have been fighting tooth and nail for the past 5 minutes, and I cannot imagine how it's going to be now. Coming down the straight, the back straight, going into that last corner. Can Henko hold Chris off again? Can he make it around the outside? There we go. Henko throws it in, not really giving Chris much of a chance to get it down the inside. But Chris gets it down the inside, but doesn't have enough momentum going down the straight. But Jude Neville is trying to make a pass as a back marker, but this is interfering with the battle for the lead as Jude Neville makes it past Henko. Now these two will... Oh, Jude Neville, he once again is interfering with the race. Chris Stoltz is furious. He is angry at Jude Neville. He does not like what's happening. He got taken out. Henko got taken out by Chris Stoltz. As Chris Stoltz waits, he slowly goes about the track. That was not what Chris Stoltz wanted. He wanted a hard-fought fight. But maybe just the frustrations of having to deal with the back markers of Jude Neville just got to his head a little bit, and he just tried to capitalize on any chance that he had as he locks up majorly. But I don't know if he's still waiting for Henko to come through. But that was the final nail in the coffin for Henko. He needs to claw all of that back, and Chris Stoltz is showing that he's very fast around here. He just needed the clean air. Incredible stuff. My throat cannot keep up with what's happening. And as we see that happening, Moath Musa versus Kleinans. Once again, Henko is blocking Moath, and this has just been a case of the traffic management has played such a huge role in the outcome of these battles, these mini battles around the track. As Chris Stoltz gets out of the way, I don't know if he let Henko through or not, but that almost resulted in a massive collision, and that puts Henko back into the lead of the LMP2 race. And as we see Henko trying to warm up the tires again after that big spin. But yeah, they're just soldiering and missiling down the straight, down into the last corner, the fabled last corner that has a tendency to bite. Henko has been given a second chance. Not many people can say that. So he needs to make the most out of the second chance he has been given. They missile down the main straight. Can Chris go down the inside? Can he make a move so early on? The answer is no, but he can stay close enough. And he is having a great exit as we see Sean Laredo. Once again, their battle is being affected by a back marker as Henko runs wide and gives the place to Stoltz. That puts Henko in P2 and Chris in P1. Incredible scenes right here. Henko tried. He had a great strategy. He had a fighting spirit. But in the end, Chris was inevitable. It was just a matter of time. But Henko might still be able to make it close. But if I was a guessing man, if I was a fortune teller, I would say that Henko's tires are starting to go because he is experiencing a lot of understeer. So that was the outcome of the LMP2 race. Let's go back into the hypercar class between Moath Musa and Johan Kleinans. Kleinans has been the closest he has ever been in this battle after the pit lane, and he's following him 4/10 behind. These two are nose and tail, very similar to the situation between Henko and Chris. Will we see this again? But in the hypercar class, as Kleinans closes the gap, he is trying to muscle through. Moath trying to take any advantage he's got. He's going down the inside. He doesn't want to really necessarily give it away so easily, but he thinks better of it. He knows Kleinans made a very late lunge. He did not expect Moath to not carry as much speed as he wanted to, and somehow these two are still going at it. They still have the fighting power in their souls to get onto the top of this podium. Incredible stuff from these two. It's really coming alive. There was a moment in the race just before the pits where everything settled, but that is thrown out of the window. And just a quick update while we still watch this battle, Johan Blicknote is still in P1 and David van Wyk is still in P2. Not much action has happened in the GT3 department, but for the LMP2s and for the hypercars, it has been a completely different story as we reach the 8-minute mark. There is still so much time left for Kleinans to make a move. He must be furious because he was jumped in the pit lane and there was a lot of traffic that affected their race. So Kleinans is having less and less moments to make a move on Moath. Going into the third sector, this is a tight section. Will Kleinans show his nose? No, he tucks in behind, trying to keep up with Moath. But Moath runs wide and into the third section they go, going side by side. Whoa, he shoves him a little wide, but still enough room as Kleinans tries to go down the inside. They tap. It unsettles Marth a little bit. Marth rejoins. Kleinans, ooh, very, very close stuff. Very, very door-to-door racing, bumper to bumper, as Marth makes a back into the lead. What a tussle between these two. Rubbing is racing right here, folks, as we see Marth trying to lap Siereman, and he goes around the outside. Kleinans follows. That was a very late move from Marth. Very split-second decision, which helped him in the long run. Incredible scenes from these two right here who are trying to fight for the top step of the podium and who are trying to fight for the lead of the championship. They are neck and neck with the two drop rounds in effect. So they are on equal playing field as Marth sends it down the inside. Kleinans very much caught out by that late minute move from Marth. Incredible stuff. I am losing my voice here. I've been saying that all the time. But yes, this has been incredible. This has been incredible. Yeah. So the gap should be on auto cycle, but we'll just put a gap to next instead of just an auto cycle. So these two have been fighting quite hard right now. And it seems to have stabilized a little bit, so it's a 1.6 second gap. But yeah, this is the closest battle. Oh, I stand corrected. Vapour Evening. No, sorry. Okay, so revisiting Vapour Evening, still in fourth. He has not had the race he has wished for. He was in race-winning contention, but unfortunately, the likes of Blichnotes, Van Wyk, and Jason Farmer have just jumped him through pit strategy and pace, which is a shame. I know that's not the race result that he would want, but he has to just keep pushing on, waiting and praying that something happens up ahead, as we still see Marth with a 1.5 second gap away from Kleinans. He needs to start watching because Kleinans only has 5 minutes and 24 seconds to go in this race. So, incredible stuff we are seeing here right now. And I've just been at a loss for words because it's just been an incredible dice between the leaders of the Hypercar class and the LMP2 class. And I have been screaming so much from such pure excitement at the racing we're watching that, like, I can't keep up anymore. These two need to calm down a little bit for me to catch up. But yes, so the gap is closing down once again. 1.1 seconds. Kleinans seems to be very good in the braking zones and keeps up just well enough in the straights. As we see Marth Musa trying to lap the GT3 traffic of Vapour Evening, managing to slip ahead, just making the right choices when it comes to the multi-class racing. Okay, just to revisit, Chris Stoltz in the lead by 15 seconds from Henko van den Berg, who's just had an unfortunate second stint, and he really tried to keep up and to hold Chris behind. In third, Rob van der Heever, who has been having a very, how can I say, he has been having a very clean race. He's been managing his stints very well, and has just gotten out of trouble for the most end. Neil Greening also had another person who's had a very good race. Danny Steenkamp is tailing him though. He might be catching slowly but surely. Oh no, sorry, I'm mistaken. He's a lap down from Neil Greening. So yes, there are. Neil is fourth and Danny is fifth, but Danny is still a lap behind. Ari Fenter in P6 hasn't been having the greatest of races with the fortune that he's been having, as he lets Marth and Kleinans through as they try to resume their battle. And Jude Neville in P7, Alan Patterson, as we see him spin out, being just witnessing and feeling the snap of an angry LMP2 car under the brakes. And we see Darren Miller in the pits. We don't know if he's retired or not. Might be the case. So, a quick refresher on the retirees. Paul Venter, Sean Laredo, Richard van Heerde, Flip van Zyl, Jacques, and Gabriel. That rounds up at least. So 7 people have retired from that. And while all of this chaos happens, these two are still fighting. As we can see on the back of Mart's car, there is a little bit of damage. As you can see, the crumple. And that might affect his rear downforce, affecting his grip out of the corners. But he's still managing a very healthy gap between him and Kleinans. So these two have been fighting incredibly hard, like touring car drivers, using their cars as battering rams as they barrel down the straight, down this back straight, running alongside the pit lane, as we see Blicknote in the background and Rob trying to get out of the way, but kind of getting in the way on the inside line, which probably compromises Kleinans just a little bit, but not enough that he doesn't have a 5/10 gap away from Moaz. So these two are going to have fireworks by the end of the race, as we have 1 minute and 37 seconds remaining of the race. Oh, and we have another confirmation of another retiree, Geldenace, who has disconnected from the session. So, as much as as the drivers have to experience the harshness of the circuit, they also have to experience the harshness of random mechanical failures, such as disconnecting or driver issues. So, it's very much a battle of attrition as we see these two. Once again, nose to tail. They cannot let each other go. They are bound for life in this race. You will not see a gap bigger than 1 second between these two, as we see Kleinans manage to close the gap to 5/10. But he needs to be significantly faster than Moaz to make the most out of any potential overtaking opportunities. But as we can see in that corner, Kleinans tends to have the better exit over Moaz. Moaz just understeers a little bit, while Kleinans has a little bit more agility, which helps him keep up with Moaz through this third sector. As we see him close the gap down to 3/10, 2/10. Can he missile down the straight? Will it be enough? Will it be enough? That is the $1 million question we are seeing right now. It is enough. Moaz can breathe just a little, but Kleinans is very quick in this final corner, as these two round about the final corner, going onto the main straight, missling down the straight. Kleinans almost had a very good exit, and that is Moaz winning the race over Kleinans. What an incredible show. Once again on the top step of the podium, back to back to back. That is Moaz Musa, your race winner. Well, actually, no, just back to back. But that is your race winner. As we see Chris Stoltz still making his way through the third sector, as he has a comfortable lead of 25 seconds over Henko van den Berg. What an incredible drive from Chris, even with an unfavorable strategy and having to deal with an incredible force, the ever-fighting human indomitable spirit of Henko. But rounding around the final corner, Chris Stoltz wins it yet again for the LMP2 class with a back-to-back-to-back-to-back win. 4-time winner Chris Stoltz makes it across the line in first, as we see Blicknote as well making it across the line in first. What a wonderful display, and a true appreciation for those who are just incredibly talented and incredibly skilled at what they do. What an incredible race, as we still see some people trying to finish the race, with Neil Greening in third, rounding around the final corner. But what an action-packed race. Apologies for the technical difficulties yet again, but what an incredible race for all of our drivers. Incredible stuff. So let's see if we can just get like maybe the session results. I don't think it is updated yet. Yeah, so let's see if that works. So we have Moaz Musa in first, Jan Kleinans in second, Lee Bouillon in third, Now Bouillon in fourth, Chris Stoltz Oh, that rounds out the hypercar class. Chris Stoltz in first, Henko Vandenberg in third, in second for the LMP2 class, Neil Greening in third, Rob in fourth, Danny Steenkamp in fifth, and then we go straight to the GT3 class with Johan Blichnoot in first and David van Wyk in second, with Jason Farmer in third. That rounds out the podiums for the GT3 class. So let's just quickly refresh. Marth Musa in first, Jihan Kleinans in second, Lee Bouillon in third, Niall Bouillon in fourth. That rounds out Hypercars. Chris Stoltz in first for the LMP2 class, Henko in second, Neil Greening in third, Rob in fourth, Danny in fifth, Jude in sixth, Ari Fent in seventh, Alan Patterson eighth, and yeah, that very much rounds the drivers for that race. What an incredible race. I really would like to see what everyone had to say about that from their respective perspectives. Incredible scenes. I don't know about everyone here, but for me, that was an incredible race. So while we wait, we have Chris Stoltz in the waiting room. So let's get a move on and get him into here. Hello, Chris. Congratulations on yet another win for the LMP2 class. How did your race go?
Hi, Andre. Yeah, no, it was a bit of fuel saving hell, to be honest. Fuel saved literally every single lap for that entire race, and then still last couple laps was like 5 seconds off the pace with the fuel saving, and still just managed to make it with like half a liter of fuel left. So it
Wow.
was pretty tight. I literally and I fueled the car full in the start and the pits. So yeah, that was maximum fuel saving.
Yeah, incredible scenes there, especially your battle with Henko, as you were kind of on the back foot on the pit exit. So maybe just give us a bit of a perspective as to what you were thinking and what was your mentality in trying to catch Henko and trying to get past him, because it got very fierce very quickly, which was a very enjoyable watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good battle. There was a bit of contact that we had, and I waited for him. There was like a back marker who passed us, and I think yeah, that made things a bit difficult. We were so off the pace because I think we both had to fuel save so much. But yeah, I think he jumped me in the pits because I don't think he took tires. I could immediately tell that I had so much more grip, and I like closed the 5 second gap like pretty much in like 2 laps. But then it was that classic thing of catching up is one thing and overtaking is another, and it's difficult to send it on the brakes with these cars because they lock so easily. So it was just about finding the moment. I knew his tires would keep going off, but it was so difficult as well because even when fighting him, I had to fuel save a lot. So it was tricky.
Incredible. I did not know that it came down to fuel saving, and it honestly created such a spectacle to watch. So thank you very much for giving the audiences at home something incredibly entertaining to watch. Once again, Chris, congratulations and thank you very much. And yeah, congratulations on the top step of the podium yet again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. What an incredible man in terms of how he manages to win time and time again. I feel like it is something that's worth praising. And yeah, and talking about praising yet again, Blichnote in the winner's circle after such a crazy climb. Let us get him in here. Welcome, Mr. Blichnote. Well done on your race. What an incredible drive from the back of the grid all the way to the front. How do you feel about that?
Uh, quite surprised and quite not surprised. Uh, yeah, I don't know how I did it, but the BMW surprised us again.
Yeah, that was a wonderful performance. Maybe just run us through what was the pit strategies? What was your mentality going into the race? And I heard that you had issues during qualifying, and how did that affect your mentality heading into the race?
For the race, I was just planning on sitting behind the guy, seeing what happens. save my tires for the end of the race because I know it's going to be hard on the tires this track. And fuel and energy, or not fuel, energy save a bit because it was close. I had to save like 5 laps after the pits for 5 laps to just get enough to finish the race. And yeah, it worked out. David had a bit of a oops, so I capitalized on that, and then Serbing lost it again. So gave me free position, and I think Vietja went in and took new tires, and yeah, that handed me the lead.
Incredible stuff, because it was a completely fierce battle for the lead of the LMGT3 class. So for you to yet again come out on top is an incredible achievement. And yeah, I guess it also just sets the stage for the championship, as it's a clear fight between you and David. How do you feel about this rivalry between the two of you?
I'm just happy to see David up there with me. I'm hoping I can be a good coach to him, and sometimes he makes me proud, and sometimes he makes me very angry because it's hard to make a person to understand something from your perspective. He sees it in a different way.
Yeah, that is great insight. Blicknote, congratulations once again, and thank you for sharing us your perspective of the race. Once again, congratulations on yet another win.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you. Ah, what a drive from him. Can we all agree on that? That is an incredible climb for Mr. Blicknote. But yeah, as we can see, Van Wyk laughing at the comments that were thrown about by Blicknote. But last but surely not least, from the insane battle that we focused on until the end, we are going to be interviewing Muath Musa. Welcome, Muath Musa. Congratulations on yet another win in such tight and tense circumstances. How do you feel about that?
You chuffed about that. Yeah, it was an intense race. Look, Jan was definitely the faster driver out there today by far. I mean, we saw that in his freaking qualifying place. So, yeah. And then, yeah, in the race, we tried to keep up with him as much as we could. Obviously, there was that little incident with Vermeulen there. I'm not too sure what happened exactly. We'll have to go and just check. But yeah, plan was to try and stick with him. And to be honest, yeah, the traffic definitely helped out today. He had a bit of trouble with traffic management by the looks of it. And we managed to keep a decent gap to him before the pits. And yeah, I don't know what happened in the pits with him, but yeah, we managed to jump him in the pits. And when we came out of the pits, we were in first, and I was like, okay, let's try and hold on to it. And yeah, we managed to keep it there until the end. But yeah, Jan was definitely the faster driver. There was a point where he did overtake me and then yeah, he actually let me back through. So yeah, thanks for that, Jan. I don't know what was going on there. I thought it was clean enough for you to get through. But appreciate that, man. And yeah, looking forward to the next one with you.
Yeah, incredible stuff. I was also watching the pit lane shenanigans there between you and him, and it was by such narrow margins. You could probably not even fit a 10 millimeter ruler in between the gap between you guys in the pits, and it was just nose to tail after that. So yeah, incredible scenes all around. Very much touring car esque racing. But yet again, Muath, congratulations and thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. Enjoy.
Thank you. Everyone, that was wow, an incredible race. Sebring never disappoints. It will never ever disappoint. Um, it's a shame that not everyone can make it to the end, but that's kind of the nature of Sebring. It's very much a survivalist track, and there's a beauty in that. But as you can see, produced an incredible spectacle of racing. Once again, thank you to everyone in the chat and everyone who tuned into the live stream. You guys are all awesome, and we would not be here without you wonderful people. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time in 2 weeks' time. I just need to confirm where. If I am not mistaken, it will be the fabled French track of Le Mans. Incredible circuit. Kind of similar to Sebring to some extent, where it's like kind of a timeless classic in some regards, but there's quite nothing like it. It's an incredible track which will invite a lot of racing. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes, and we'll just see how the championship plays out. Once again, thank you to everyone who's watched the live stream, and we will catch you guys next time at Le Mans. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you all have a good one.